So I am back with Brandy, and we are holding another little chat on the topic actually of mental health and well-being,
Yeah.
because we are very aware that because of the confinement and COVID-19, a lot of people are experiencing stress, anxiety, and I'm sure that you have loads of tips that
Yeah.
you can share.
Yeah. I mean, this time is bringing a lot of pressure on all of our relationships, whether it's a parent-child relationship, whether it's a couple, whether it's coworkers, right? But the people that we're sharing our physical space with, right? Conflict that arises can really get escalated during these times where people feel trapped. They don't feel like they can get quite away from it, right? And it's important that we talk about, having a healthy plan, right? Getting a safety plan in place, an emotional safety plan. We all have a different level of need for space that make us feel emotionally safe, right? And showing up with an awareness and maybe talking ahead of time about what the plan is. All of us have different relationships. And if this is a time that's bringing more conflict in your relationships, it's important to take a step back and talk about the safety for everyone and how we can provide pathways to de-escalation when we may not physically be able to get very far away from one another.
Okay, so what would those pathways be?
Yeah. So again, I really encourage people to have an emotional safety plan. We'll do a link to a sample of that, of what that looks like. And it's talking about being aware of what your own triggers are, what things that come up that make you really escalated, maybe get you to a point where you're not making the best decisions, right? Where you feel like, oh, I might say something I don't want to say or do something I don't want to do. And saying, okay, what am I going to do? Taking responsibility for what I can do in this situation and saying, what would I want to do? Okay. I would like to go and take a shower. I would like to go give the dog a walk. I would like to go on the balcony and be able to talk to a friend and calm down. Whatever those methods are, be honest with yourself, but also share that with your family members. And even as parents, modeling that to your kids, this can be stressful for all of us, when mom's, really stressed out. I don't want to yell at you guys, I'm going to take a break, right? As long as safety is considered, talk about what your plan is and normalize that it's okay to take space away from each other. And that can keep us from going into a conflict cycle with one another.
Okay, yeah, that's really very useful.
Yeah.
That taking the dog for a walk is a great one. Or
Yeah.
even just going for a walk by yourself, but just take time
If you
out.
have a dog, right?
Yeah, if you have a dog. If
Become
not,
a dog
I
walker.
have one you can borrow. Or maybe I should.
Yeah.
Oh, here comes an income idea.
Yeah, but considering for some, this is a more grave situation in that some people, their conflicts escalate into domestic violence, and we want to give voice that right now could be a really scary time. We are going to attach some resources for people who are currently experiencing that, so that they have healthy pathways to safety. Right? It's important that we address safety, and that people know that they can still leave their house for their imminent safety, that's not something they're going to be penalized for. It's important that we also are connected to the resources that we might need. If you know that someone in your family doesn't cope well with stress, and you're seeing some signs that they might not be coping well, or that they may be in need of support themselves. We have a list of resources, and it's really helpful that people know that there are self-help guides, right, for adjusting and regulating mood. And if that self-help is not enough, we have professionals in the community who are here to help you through it. We want to help everyone on both sides, right, because only we can each do our part to keep these relationships healthy and safe. And part of it is showing up and recognizing when we need help.
Yeah, totally. Um, I think also, obviously, coronavirus, COVID-19 in of itself is a stress factor and an
Mm.
anxiety producer or reason why we get anxious.
Yeah.
And also, I think that one of the tensions is maybe if in a family, if one feels a lot more anxious about this than the other,
Mm-hmm.
maybe that there's tips to kind of give that person the space to express their fears and not necessarily put them down, but kind of, tell them
Yeah.
it's okay, you feel that way, maybe I feel differently, how can we
Yeah.
make this work? Or
And it's healthy to create a space where they're allowed to have the feelings and emotions that they have, but they're also responsible for those emotions, so that they understand, while you might feel anxious, cycling in these anxious thoughts to other people can actually cause a lot of stress and strain for other people as well. And that, ruminating about these things is not a really healthy way to cope. It may feel like venting or just getting it out. But being careful and cognizant of, how much, just like our input, how much we take in is important, how much of talking about it is healthy for us. And this can be part of that calibration we talked about last time, right?
yeah,
Is saying, okay, are we talking about it too much? Are there things that we're not talking about that maybe we should be talking about? Should we be having these conversations with the kids, without the kids? How do those conversations look different? And recognizing that we have various levels of support, right? For whatever level of anxiety or distress or depression that this could cause people, right? That there are lots of self-help guides that we will make readily available for people who want to help themselves with getting their thoughts under control. And if you are still struggling, we have professionals to help you with helping you feel more self-regulated, feel more capable to regulate, find a healthy calibration or alignment with how much you're taking in and how much you're putting out of this, because that um, is something that can be contagious if we're stuck with people and then they're anxious and cycling and we're, reacting to their anxiety. We pick up on it. So it's important that people understand, yes, you have every right to what you're experiencing, but you're also responsible. So for example, if you feel anxious, it's important that we acknowledge that you're anxious and that it's okay that you're anxious. It's not okay that your anxiety becomes everyone's anxiety, or that other people have to automatically change their behaviors to account for your anxiety, because that may actually feed the anxiety, right? By saying, oh yeah, this thing that you're fearing, it really is real, and we're gonna kind of accommodate that. So it's important to have some boundaries with kind of how much is too much, and saying, I'm here to support you. I'm okay that you're not okay right now with this, but let's figure out how much of talking about it is helpful. And there are a lot of resources for keeping your thoughts in check, making sure that they're healthy, right? We all have leanings towards unhealthy thinking at times, and knowing what your patterns are can help you to break that cycle so that you're not stuck kind of ruminating about the fears, because they're real.
totally. One piece of advice you gave me very early on that I have passed on to absolutely everybody is limit the amount of time you're actually getting the news.
Yeah.
You were saying 30 minutes a day, 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening, or at
Yeah,
another
or
time.
however you want it, if
Yeah.
it's gonna
Oh,
be,
that's my hubby just walking by.
hello. If it's gonna be, if we want to limit that consumption of technology, things are not changing so rapidly that if you check it a couple of times a day, but consider that, more than 30 minutes is probably not particularly beneficial, and you're very likely to be going down the rabbit holes where misinformation lies. So keep in mind that you can, you can spread this out throughout your day. You can do it 15 minutes at the beginning of the day, 15 minutes at the end. If you want to do a deep dive once a day, that's fine. But, more than 30 minutes, you're not going to be any more informed. And keep in mind, like it or not, social media is now one form of that. It's not news, right?
Yeah.
But it is one more pathway that we're exposed to this ongoing conversation. So figure out other conversations, other places where you want to inhabit, because it's really not healthy for us to just be, wading through COVID-19 information all day long, or seeing everything in our life through that lens. Is it relevant right now? Absolutely. Is it something that we need to be preoccupied or should be preoccupied with all day long? Probably not. It's good to have a break. It's good to figure out your own silver linings, right? It's good to figure out what you want more of if you're going to have less of that, right? So being conscious of what you're going to replace that with would be a really healthy place for people to start to reflect on.
Yeah. Okay. So deep breaths, limit the time, and find your space, find ways of de-escalating situations or your own internal emotions. And we have tons of resources that will be shared.
Absolutely. From apps to podcasts, websites, and more. We will list those resources for you. Try to integrate these things into your life, see what you need. There are even ones where you can schedule your worry time, where it's like, okay, there's an app called Worry Time where you say, yep, I'm going to worry, but I'm only going to worry for this time during my day. And I'm not going to worry outside of this time because it's not going to change my daily life. Yeah. And so it's important that we have a space to recognize, yes, it's important to think about it. It's not important to think about this all day long.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for that, and see you soon.
Yeah.